Hi everyone, my name is Ronald Denisio and I'm the Virtual Content Specialist for 7th grade Social Studies. In this teacher-facing video, I will go over strategies for teaching Unit 2, Days 5 and 6, the Boston Massacre, including the document analysis strategy and the image analysis strategy. This lesson is adapted from Lesson 3 of the Passport to Social Studies Unit 2, The Road to Independence. The first few lessons serve to explore the various events that led to the colonies declaring independence from Great Britain. This lesson examines the role played by the Boston Massacre in building dissent in the colonies. We have links provided to online interactive versions of sources in the National Archives resource DocsTeach, as well as the sources embedded in these slides. And when you're in person, you can find sources used in this lesson on student workbook pages 151 to 158, as well as the original Passport to Social Studies curriculum guide. In this lesson, students will analyze a variety of documents to determine how different people perceive key events of the American Revolution. We'll go over some of the learning activities in this video, including our introduction to model slides, where students will look at the optical illusion, my wife and my mother-in-law, as well as going over brief historical background of the Boston Massacre. The independent work slides, where students will analyze depictions and descriptions of the Boston Massacre, and we'll talk about ways students can work in partnerships or triads or small groups to look at the documents together, and different ways that we can jigsaw the documents and have them present their findings to the class at the end. Finally, we'll discuss the wrap-up, where students will share and compare the different perspectives in their depictions and descriptions of the Boston Massacre. The first thing we'll do is display the my wife and my mother-in-law optical illusion, and after giving the class a couple of minutes to view the image, ask a few students to share their observations. From my experience, students will be very enthusiastic about sharing whether they see an old woman or a young girl. If the students struggle to see one or the other, point it out. The ear, jawline, and necklace of the young girl become the eye, nose, and mouth of the old woman, and vice versa. Then you'll facilitate a class discussion on how two different images are visible in the same picture by asking, why do some of you see a young woman while others see an old woman? Have you ever viewed a situation one way while someone else argued that it was different? How can we apply this idea to history? What kind of historical sources provide us with information? How do these sources present different points of view of a historical event? How do we know which point of view more accurately describes a historical event? Now that we've hooked students, we're ready to introduce them to the historical background of the Boston Massacre. Explain to students that they will review a variety of documents about the Boston Massacre. Provide students with the following facts and background information on the Boston Massacre. The Boston Massacre was a conflict between British troops stationed in Boston and colonial dock workers. The event occurred on March 5th, 1770 on King Street in Boston. 5 people died and 6 were injured. Now that we've taken some time to hook students and build their historical backgrounds, we're ready to introduce the main learning activity for students. We'll share with students that they will be analyzing documents related to the Boston Massacre. Each member will be analyzing a different document. As students analyze, we'll ask them to summarize the events of the Boston Massacre and determine which group instigated the event. It might be helpful to divide students into groups of 4 and distribute the documents so that each student in the group has a different document. Students will work individually to complete the analysis sheet based on their assigned document. You could also have students work together in expert groups while they analyze their document, and then move to teaching groups where they teach their classmates about the document they analyzed. That concludes Part 1 of Unit 2, Days 5 and 6, the Boston Massacre lesson video series. Make sure to watch Part 2 of this video series, where we go over suggested strategies, including the document analysis and image analysis strategy.